Hello everyone, welcome. So today what we're going to do is we are going to model a more organic building. Got some kind of cool references and stuff, just been looking at here, kind of like that. And yeah, so I'm going to do a building similar to this little guy over here and kind of play with some of the interior spaces as well as we move through this. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to close that, maximize this. And then I'm going to start a new document. And I'm going to do a new document from the template of inches, feet, and inches. Inches, feet, and inches. This one, okay? Large object, important. And then I'm going to hit open. And then the first thing I want to do is I want to set up my grid so that I've got enough space to make this kind of massive building that I'm going to make. So I'm going to go to File, Properties, and I'm going to go to Grid. And I'm going to make it every 6 inches is a minor grid line, and then a major grid line every 6 minor grid lines. So that should be, 3 feet? And then okay. All right, so now I'm going to go to my perspective window here. Click on the little down arrows, make sure I'm in shaded. Okay. And I'm going to start off by just kind of creating an organic structure. I'm going to just use some spheres, and I'm going to just do maybe 4 spheres, and I'm going to start off with the first one, sphere. Just click somewhere, start to drag out, and I'm going to go 50 apostrophe for 50 feet. That's going to be the first one, and then I'm going to do another one, and I'm going to do 30 apostrophe, and I'll do another one, and I'm going to do 40 apostrophe, and I'll do one more, and this one will be 20 apostrophe. Okay. So these are kind of just our structures of our room. And then I'm going to kind of overlap them. Kind of like that. And then I'm going to kind of play with the shape a little bit. So they're not completely just spherical. Just kind of play with the scale. And then once I get them kind of overlapped, I like to switch to a top view here and then kind of look at how they're laid out. I'm going to move this one, I think, like this. Just kind of play a little bit more with the forms, get it dialed in a little better. Okay, so that looks good to me. Maybe move this a little bit this way. Okay, cool. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to Boolean union them all together. So they're all one piece. Awesome. And then to make it a little bit more, like if we look at it rendered here, you can see there's kind of hard edges here. I can soften that by quadrulating the mesh. So I'm going to go ahead and go quad, remesh, enter. I'm going to use maybe 200 of this. Make sure convert to sub D is turned on here. Just, match these settings on the quad remesh. And I'm going to hit OK. And that's going to give me a sub D object, which will kind of smooth out those transitions between the different shapes in a nice way. So you can see the difference between the two. I'll switch back over here to shaded. Okay, cool. So I'm going to delete this and move this back over into position here. All right. So after I've quad remeshed it, you can, play with this form a little bit more if you want. You can play with scaling and kind of tweaking some of the faces by using Control Shift double click. You can grab edge loops, change scaling. You can grab vertices, anything with Control Shift and clicking on the object to kind of control the shape. But I'm going to leave it kind of basic like this and go ahead and I'm going to convert it back to NURBS. So I'm going to type 2 NURBS, enter. Okay. So then I'm going to take my sub D and I'm going to put it on another layer. I'm probably never going to come back to it, but I'm going to go ahead and change object layer to this kind of bluish layer here and turn off that layer. So now we just have the NURBS object here. Or change that color of that layer there. So like if I hide the default layer, You can see there it is, the sub D. Okay. But now I am ready to turn this thing into a building. And I'm going to cut off the bottom of it so that it just has, so it's right at like the ground level here. So I'm going to draw a line and I'm going to hit 0, enter. So line, enter, 0, enter brings up the line command. I'll make sure my ortho is turned on so I'm drawing straight. Click over here. And then I'm going to go ahead and move this to about there and then increase the scale of it. Switch back to perspective here. Hold down shift and I'm going to click on the little line on the move tool here so I can cut both ends. And what that does is it cut off the bottom here. And now I have a flat object. Okay, now once I have this, I'm going to go ahead and shell it out. So shell is the command. So I'm going to type shell, enter, and then I'm going to remove the bottom face here. And I'm going to make a thickness of 10 inches because if it's concrete, a lot of times poured concrete walls will be about 10 inches, especially on fancier buildings. So I'll do 10, enter, select this face that I want to remove, enter, and then it will shell it out. So now I have a hollow that I can make an interior structure for. The next step is I want to create a floor for it, like an interior floor. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use a new command, duplicate edge. So dupe edge, enter, and I'm going to click on the edge all the way around the bottom here. Or I can switch to a right or a front view and just go left to right, select very, very close to the bottom there. And then switch back to perspective just to make sure I've only selected that bottom line. Looks good. Cool. So I'm going to hit enter. So now I've got those two lines. I'm going to go ahead and isolate it for a moment. So type isolate, and now we can see I've got these shapes. Now these lines are going to be kind of broken up, so we need to make sure we join them all together. So I'll select everything and just type join. Okay. And that should join these exterior lines. Ooh. Okay. Did that work? Yeah. Okay. Joined all of those lines together. So this one, I'm gonna extrude down. So click on that. I'm gonna go negative 10 inches. So that's gonna give me the floor that the entire building sits on. And then this one, I'm actually just gonna keep around because I'm gonna make it like a second floor balcony kind of area. And I wanna use this as that template. So I'm gonna just kind of move it up in space. And then I'm gonna give it a little extrusion. Whoops, sorry, I should do that by a dimension. Click on that, go negative 10, enter. So that gives me another floor. Actually, you know what? Hold on. Got to be a little bit more in charge of my dimensions here. So how tall do I want these ceilings to be? So I'm going to move this up 14 feet, enter. Then I'm going to do the extrusion negative 10. Okay, so 14 feet. Ceiling in there, and I can come back in and carve this out later on. So I'm going to put this on a layer. I'll put on layer 1, and I'm going to go change object layer here, just right clicking on it, and I'm going to call this second floor. Okay, and turn it off. And then I'm also going to create another layer right here. I'll call it curves. And any of the curves that I'm using that I want to keep around for later, put there, turn it off. Then I'm going to right click on our little light bulb up here. Okay, you can just type show as well. So now you can see I've got a ground floor that sits down below it. And then my second floor up here just kind of nicely fits around our object. I'm going to turn off the ground floor here. So again, just change this maybe to floor, enter, change object layer, and turn it off. I don't like this default color either. Let's be colorful. Ooh, that's a little too bright. There we go. Well, gold is unfortunate because my selection shows up in let's do dark green. There we go. Okay, so now that we have the second floor set at about 14 feet up, what we're going to do is we're going to trim off all of the excess. Before we make any other moves, we want to make sure we do this. So Boolean difference enter. Make sure delete cutters is set to no. I want to click on this, enter, click on this, enter. And basically it's giving me all of that area on the outside has now just been completely cut off. Cool. So with that second floor shape like that, I'm good to leave it for now. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the second floor. And now we're going to start creating that awning. Okay, so now let's go ahead and draw our opening. I'm going to have a big grand opening right here. So I'm going to go ahead and disable all my object snaps, go to over here and start to draw out a curve. But I'm going to switch my layers here. So I'm going to go over here. Let's go back to black here. And let's go up here to our curve tool. And this works kind of like the pen tool. If you've got ortho on and you can hold down shift to kind of manipulate it. And then I'm just clicking to create kind of an arc. And you can see each one of those little dots are where I'm clicking just to give you kind of an idea. Enter. Okay. And then I can type points on. Click on this. Let me go ahead and switch to wireframe here so we can see it a little better. And you can manipulate this now. So if I wanted to left to right select on all of these and kind of pull them this way and maybe down, kind of making this arc a little bit more dramatic. Okay, once you get the curve kind of the way you want, you know, you can even come in here and delete some of these little curve points that don't matter because that will actually make the curve flow a little bit more. I kind of like it, that straight edge on there. I don't know. Well, maybe I'll move this one up and over, up. You know, so you can be really finicky about this stuff. I really like to manipulate these because all of these decisions you're making now have a major impact on the overall look. You know, it's like if you're molding something out of clay, you know, the initial shape is really going to determine the final shape. It's the same thing here. Yeah, get rid of this one too. There we go. I like the continuity of that curve. Okay, so next I'm going to project this line onto this object. So the way we do that is right here, this little tool called project curves onto control or control points. So I'm going to project that, enter, onto that, enter. And then I'll switch back to perspective. And now you can see that it's created these cut lines on both sides though. I don't want the back like that, so I'm gonna actually delete those. And then you can kind of look at it and go, okay, well, do I like that? It might be a little too big. So I'm gonna undo, switch back to my front view here. And I'm gonna bring it in a little bit this way, a little bit that way. Because you really don't know how it's going to look until it's actually projected onto it. So now I'm going to go ahead and do that again. Project. What is it? Let's write this one. Just grab the curve, click on that. Okay, let's go back to perspective now. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to delete this back one because I don't want to accidentally do anything with that. So it's important to delete. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this with this. And that's going to give me this little chunk out of here that I can then delete. And then I'm going to find, I'll go ahead and put this curve. I'll just delete it actually. I'm going to find the interior curves of this. Let me put this curve on this layer here. Okay. So this curve here, I'm going to isolate. So again, type isolate, enter. Okay, so now what we've got is this is a curve that matches the interior of that shape. I can now go ahead and I want to make this into a solid object because if we look at our object here, you can see where I split it. Maybe it's better in rendered, but it's open and you can't have that open. It's going to look completely crappy when we for the rest of our time. We need to have this little closure on it and we can make that with the lines. So that's what we're going to do. Switch back over here to shaded, select our lines. And I'm going to isolate them. So type isolate or use your center mouse wheel, click and go to the light bulb, hold it down and go to the isolate command. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to join this whole thing together so it's all one piece. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to extract a curve. Yeah, no, you know what? Let's just go ahead and do this. I'm going to just explode this, delete this, join this back together, and then I'm going to draw a line from right up, turn my snap back on, endpoint to endpoint, end to end, line from end to end. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to create a surface using these guidelines. So I'm going to go sweep 2. So I'm going to select this. So click, click, and then click and click, enter. So you select the rails first and then enter, enter. So let me do that one more time. Sweep 2, and it says select the rails. So select the rail, 1 rail, 2 rails, and then it automatically says select the sweep shapes. I'm going to use this shape and this shape, enter. Okay. Let's bring back our object, and then you can see that surface perfectly aligns, and then we'll join it together. And it's now all one nice cohesive piece. Okay, so I can go about making some more cutouts. I'm going to make some windows on this and maybe some skylights as well. So let's go ahead and get doing that. So the other thing about projecting shapes onto the object is whatever view you're looking in is how it's going to project. So we did a front view to get this curve on there. I'm not going to do any kind of front view. I'm just going to kind of look at it in my viewport to see if how it's going to look, and I'm going to start to draw some shapes. So I'm going to do some ellipses here. So I want to switch to a front view here. So I'm going to go to set view, and I'm going to go front view, and then I'll switch back to perspective again. And what that's doing is it's giving me my grid this way, which means that I can draw my oval shape this way. If I'm in a top view, the oval is drawn this way. So whichever orientation the grid's at is the direction that you're going to draw your shapes. So I'm just going to draw a few ovals, different sizes here. Maybe tweak this one a little bit. Okay. So then I'm going to take this oval here, scale it in a little bit, and I'm just going to kind of put it where I want it to line up with my object here. Okay, and then just kind of get it to that right spot. That looks good to me. And then I'm going to go to this projection tool again, click on this, and then click on this, enter, and then click on that. Okay, and I kind of missed, or did I? I mean, that could be a cool window too, but you see how it's projecting onto that surface. So let me see here, project. Maybe go to a front view here. Try moving it. Let's try it again. Okay, back to perspective. Okay, you know what? One more time, I'm going to go to front. I'm going to move it a little bit to the right. Let me go ahead and click on this. I'm going to go Control X to just copy it to my clipboard, left to right, select and delete those. Control V to bring it back. So a little copy and pasting trick helps. Okay, so let's project this, enter onto this, enter. Back to perspective here. That looks good. Okay, so then I'm going to get rid of any unnecessary lines that I've created, delete those. And then I'm going to do another one, a little window on the back here. So let's switch this back over here. And let's see. Go to a right view. This one right there. Okay. Hit the perspective. and kind of try to line it up. Project this, enter onto that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Cool. So get a little window there, a little window there. All right. Now let's do some on the top too. So go to a top view. I'll grab these back to perspective here. Just flip them this way. Top. Okay. All right, and I'm going to project these two, project you, project you and you onto this. Okay, cool, back to perspective. All right, so those are going to be my windows. Just to get my grid back to where I want it to be, I'm going to click on top, and then I'll click on perspective here. Get rid of all of these, or I can put them on the curves layer, either way. So next, same thing we did with the other one, we're just going to split this with this. And the top. I think there's one on the inside too. Get the ones on the inside too. Enter. Cool. So now the key here is you want to keep part of this split because you do have glass. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go extract surface, select the surface on the front here. Oh, I guess this one doesn't extract. Enter, delete. And so if we look at it in rendered here, now you should be able to see. Well, I guess it didn't extract. Okay, let me just do this then. So you can go. All right. And then you can see that's open again, which we do not want. So in order to fix that, it's very simple. I'm just going to type loft, enter. I'm going to loft this curve. Let me go back to shaded here so we can see a little easier, to this curve, and this curve. Enter, enter, okay. Oops, it didn't work. Loft. Curve. Okay, there, now it worked. Join those together. Okay, come over here. Hide this. Loft. Okay, join together. Oh, I joined that by mistake. Control Z. There we go, separate. Okay. Loft again. Join. Okay. Bring back our little surfaces on the ceiling here. We're going to make these glass, but I'm going to click on this first, and I'm going to go ahead and extrude it up a little bit so it's got some thickness. So I'm going to click on it and go 0.25 for the thickness of the glass. This one I'm going to do the same thing, 0.25. And then I'm going to go ahead and move these both kind of up in space a little bit so that there's a like a rim on the inside too that goes around it, which will give a little bit more depth. All right. So next we got these guys. Basically the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and isolate this. Typing isolate, of course, works. But I'm going to go for first, and I'm going to dupe edge on this all the way around it, because I don't know where I did with the curves, but enter, and then I'll go join, enter, and then this I'm going to explode, and I'm going to get rid of all of these front surfaces so that I have, and this bottom surface here too. Just like that. Okay. This I'm going to extrude forward. Negative 0.25, so it goes the other way. Oh, actually, no. They're not all joined back together, so we've got to join all of these together. Join. So now I've got a nice surface there, and I can extrude it negative 0.25. So that gives me a little thickness to that window. Cool. And then with the other surfaces here, or the other curves here, what I want to do is I'm going to draw a line from that endpoint to that endpoint, and another line from that endpoint to that endpoint. And then I'm going to go sweep to, again, this curve, and then we get cross section, enter, okay. Bring everything back. Let's join this curve to these. Made it green, cool. And then I'm going to move this forward in space a little bit. All right. And I'm going to just do the same thing again here. So let's do it. I'm going to left to right select, so I grab the curves here. Isolate again. I'm going to explode. Delete the unnecessary exterior surfaces. All right. And then I'm going to join all this together. Click on this and extrude it positive 0.25. Okay, give me my thickness. All right, this is all joined together. So I'm going to isolate this part. Explode. Delete the two little end pieces of it. This just makes it easier to join back together, so I don't have to click on each part. It's easier to just redraw it. As you work with the program more and more, you kind of know like what your next move is going to be. And so you try to do things to make it go as quick as possible. So draw a line from here to here, a line from here to here. All right, then we go sweep, 2. So now I'm going to select the rail, click, select the cross section, click. And there is no enter. It's just 4 clicks, no enter, until you're ready to execute the command. Then you hit enter, and we go ahead and hit OK here. Bring everything back. Join this to that. All right. And then I'm going to pull this forward just a little bit. So we again have that nice detail there. Awesome. So that looks pretty good. Those are going to be all glass. So I'm going to go ahead and put all of these on a layer called glass. I'll create a, let's see here, glass. Okay. Change object layer. Cool. Back up to default here. All right, next I want to create kind of a cool like awning or something that kind of comes off of the edge here. So I'm going to grab this curve and it goes all the way across. If it doesn't do what mine's doing, you want to join it together. It should if you are following my steps. And then I'm just going to extrude this out like that. Now this is a surface, and again, we like to have thickness to all of our surfaces. So I'm going to offset this surface, offset surface, enter. And I'm going to do, let's see the direction of the arrows. I want to flip all of those. So I'm going to flip them out, flip all. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a distance of maybe 4, a little smaller. Yeah, it kind of gives you igloo vibes. All right, so let's look at this thing now in rendered. Okay. Yeah, see, this is what I was talking about with the curve at the beginning. If you don't get a nice, real clean curve to start with, it just doesn't look quite as good as it could have. I might redo that at some point because I really don't think that the way the light's hitting it is working well. But, you know, that's just personal preference. Okay, so now let's go up here. I'm going to go up to Edit, Select Objects, Curves, and then I'm going to put them all on the curves layer. Change Object Layer. So now we have all those curves. They're saved. They're just elsewhere. And next, just for the fun of seeing how light's falling inside of this, I'm going to put glass materials on this. So let's go to the materials browser. If you don't have the materials browser here, just make sure you should go to show panels and find where it says materials and turn that on. Then I'm going to go to add, and I'm just going to do glass. And I'll go ahead and put it on this one, this one, this one, and that one. All right, so we've got this all modeled up. We've got our windows, we've got our second floor, which is right here, just on that off layer, all set up just the way we want. So let's go ahead and turn everything back on. And then I'm going to go ahead and create an entire like a plot plan, basically. So let's go ahead and draw a rectangle like that. Extrude this down. So this is going to be kind of like the area that everything's sitting on. But you can see these weird anomalies that are happening here. So I'm going to go ahead and Boolean difference to get out the space at the bottom here. All right, so Boolean difference. Delete cutters is set to no. I want to subtract from this, enter this, enter. So now you can see that blue is nice and crisp and clean. Yeah, cool. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start playing with the shape of the second floor because I want it to have some openings. I think I'm going to do like a spiral staircase up into it, and also want to kind of cut off this end over here because I don't want a second floor over there. It's just kind of like a lofted area up here. So I'm going to isolate this, go to a top view. And then what I want to do is I'm going to kind of create another curve that I'm going to cut out this whole section here. So first I'm going to draw a circle right here. And then I'm going to draw another one. Hold down Alt, Shift, duplicate. Okay. Switch back to perspective here. Select this, cutting blade. Whoops, wrong side. So then I'll just go ahead and extrude this up. And then I'll go split this, enter with this, enter, and then split this, enter with this, enter, and then delete. Okay, and then delete, and you should have a little edge on there. So the gray edge is that part of that sphere. And then I'm going to go ahead and join those together. Cool. Then this one, I'm going to go ahead and push up with the little cutting block. There we go. Cool. So that's my second floor area. I think it looks nice. All right. And then I'll bring back all of our object. And the nice thing is that that's going to allow some of the light from the skylight up here to get down into the different layers. And it also gives it a little bit more form and stuff inside of there. Okay. And also stays away from that window area in there. All right, so let's go ahead now and switch this back to render just to give it a little look. All right. And I'm going to go to Edit, Select Objects, Curves, and I'm going to put them on the curves. Change Object Layer. Let's look at this thing in ray traced here. I think it's looking pretty cool. There's definitely some more work that can be done. I also would like to add a little bit more lights. I'm going to actually also go back in and make another awning that's basically the exact same size as this and have it be a little bit cleaner. So I'm going to play with that shape a little bit more. But this is going to be a really good shell for a building. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm not using any new techniques for the moment. I'm going to go ahead and kind of play with this a little bit more, add some more dimension, and I'll be right back. All right, so now I've got, a couple more windows and stuff. I fixed the kind of geometry on the front. I think that's looking really nice. The next couple of steps are just basically I want to create a little visualization of this just to see how it looks. And then I'll do a quick floor plan as well just to kind of demonstrate those two things. So switch over here back into rendered. And I'm going to pick some materials and stuff. So let's go back to materials here. I'm going to add a new material. And I think I'm going to do let's just do plaster. And then I'm going to just drag and drop it onto here. Let's pick a color, maybe like a desaturated kind of grayish, just like an off-white. Give it that kind of Adobe feel. Then the ground, I'm going to make it like a concrete. So I'm going to go up here and go to import material from library, architectural, exterior, hardscape. Let's bring in a thumbnail of everything. Square brick sounds good. Open. Assigned objects. A little too big there, so click on this and we'll change the sizing of it. Okay. Cool. Yeah, it's a little too small. Let's do about like that. Cool. All right. Interior. What is this floor going to be? And I just might make it something. Let's see. Do we want to do wood? No. Let's do this. Terrazzo. Assigned objects. Second floor. Assigned objects. All right. Actually, you know what? Yeah, you can just play with this however you want. And then let's see what it looks like in ray traced. And I also want to change the environment. I don't want the studio environment here. So let's go over to the render tab up here, render properties. And I'm going to go to 360 environment, and I'm going to go to a different environment. So I'm going to add a new one, import from the library, and I'm going to look for the sunset. Rhino sunset. Cool. And then I'm going to do the lighting, Rhino sunset, and all of this sunset. Okay. I really want to change this ground. Let me make this like a gravel or something. Brown rough. Gray dirt sounds good. we go. And then I'll probably click on this and we'll change how big it is. Yeah, there we go. All right, so that's, that's looking pretty good. So next, let's do a little basic floor plan. So really quite easy. Just go to a top view, and we're going to go ahead and say, first we're going to hide the second floor because we'll do that as a separate plan. So I'm going to go hide, and then I'm going to go make 2D, select the object, enter, and then hidden lines, tangent edges, I might turn those off. Something organic, a lot of times we get rid of some extra stuff here. So hidden line sounds good. Let's see what it looks like here. Yeah, that's a good basic floor plan. Very cool. So, that gives you an idea of like how to get the top view there, and I usually like to make this on a separate sheet as well. I'll come back in and I'll modify the line weights and stuff. So what I'll do is I'll save this one as the 3D model, and then I'll save another one as the 2D, and I'll have both of them on the form. And then I'll come through and I'll play with the line weights and kind of do final detailing on it. Yeah, looks good. And then to do the second floor, what I like to do is I actually bring everything back here. Let me switch back to shaded here so it doesn't go crazy. Shaded. And then bring back our second floor. So next, what I'll do is I'll go to a front view. And right at that second floor, I'm going to turn my snap back on, and I'm going to draw a line anywhere it snaps on, just kind of right at the bottom of the floor plan. So the bottom of this floor, go straight across, and then shift and kind of scale it out. And then I'm going to go to perspective, hold down shift and the cutting blade, cut that. So now I can select this and the floor here, isolate it, top view, and make 2D. Select all this, same settings as before. Okay. And let's actually do it one more time. And this time I want to say scene silhouette, turn that back on and see what the difference is. I'm thinking it's going to give me an exterior line that I like. Yeah, that's better. So leave the scene silhouette on for the make 2D. And that gives you a couple of floor plans. And then, you'll just basically do the exact same process with the floor plan as you would typically do with the technical drawings and stuff, where you play with the line weights, you lay it out on the layout, all that stuff. And if you're not familiar with that, please refer to the other tutorials that talk about technical drawings and architectural technical drawings. It'll give you a lot more detail on my channel. Okay, cool. So I think that this is a good place to stop for this one. I will continue to add little details and stuff in subsequent videos for it, but hopefully you found this to be a good process for making an organic building, and you understand how to make wall thicknesses, using shells, using sweep 2 to create closures, how to make windows, all of that stuff. So thank you very much. I'll see you on the next one.